What's good, YouTube? It's Mike, and today we're going to be talking about Sony's new firmware update for the A7 III and the A7R III. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so Sony just released the firmware version 3.0 on April 11th for the A7 III and the A7R III. I'm shooting on an A7 III now that's updated. I also have my A7 III here that has been updated as well. My R2 unfortunately didn't get any type of update, but what's new in this firmware? So version 3.0, you have a lot of nice new features that we've been waiting for. We didn't get everything from the A6400, but we did get improvements. So the main feature is active eye autofocus tracking with half press of the shutter button. No longer do you have to hold the button or hold a button to engage eye autofocus. It'll automatically engage with the half press of the shutter, which is amazing. Now you also get animal eye AF, which you go into the menu and toggle yourself. But I mean, you can't do them simultaneously, but it does work. The other feature people have been waiting for is the time-lapse feature, which was added as well. So now you can do time lapses in camera. And I mean, that's nice not having to use like a third-party app or take a bunch of photos and try to put them together. Or a lot of people would just shoot video and then speed it up, which doesn't give you the same effect, and you don't get that ability to process the image files in RAW. So that's a welcomed addition as well. There's also the ability to customize the menu button and use the menu and function buttons to tab over through the menu. Those are some things that people aren't really talking about, but that are also in there. And this firmware again goes for the A7 III and the A7R III. Those pretty much are all the features, and I did do some samples. So I'll first talk about the time-lapse feature, and you can see here that I have a sample video up here. It's just a quick few second video, but it's easy to set up. You basically go into your camera. If you go down to menu, under the first tab, it's gonna be in the fourth menu. Go down the interval shooting function, hit that, and you have to turn interval shooting on or off. That's kind of annoying, because if you accidentally leave it on, you forget, you have to go in the menu and turn it off. So I wish there was a quicker way to do that. So hopefully you can just set that as a quick function and, you know, go from there. So you turn your interval shooting on, you pick the shooting start time. So how far do you want it to start when you press the button? Shooting interval, how many seconds do you want it to wait before it takes another picture? Your number of shots, so you can have as many shots as you want. It looks like up to 9,999, I'm sure. I mean, if your battery doesn't die. Your auto exposure tracking sensitivity is set to medium or middle by default. There is low and high. I'm assuming low just changes exposure more gradually and is not as aggressive, whereas high would be very aggressive. You do have the ability to set silent shooting and time lapse, so I would definitely use that unless you're worried about banding or anything like that. Plus, sometimes the shutter can cause shake in the camera, and sometimes you don't want that. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. You just set it up, you hit the button, and it starts recording. Once it's done, you can go back into the playback menu and actually see those groups by going into the playback menu, scrolling all the way over to the page 4, and do continuous PB for intervalometer. Hit that, and then if you find any stacks that you did, you just hit the middle button and it'll start playing through them. So you can play through them, but it doesn't stitch them together. You have to do that in post. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the active autofocus feature. So it's a real nice feature. You half press the shutter button and it starts automatically tracking the eye. So the way that is set up is also in the first tab. You go over to tab 6, and now you have Face Eye AF set, and that is its own menu now. So the Face IF priority in AF, you have it as on. So if you don't like that, you can turn it off, but I normally leave it on. Subject detection, this is where you would choose human or animal. So make sure that you choose the appropriate one here for the one that you want to shoot. Now, face detect frame, you know, when you do face detection, you get a frame around the face. So what happened was when you do an update, it turns that off. So a lot of people were thinking that their face detection was broken, but it's not. They're just giving you that ability to turn it off, and it's off by default. So if you turn it back on, you'll still see that little square around your face. Animal eye display, and you can turn that on and off as well. So those are pretty neat to have the ability to turn those on and off. But that's pretty much it. You set it in that mode. You go grab your camera, you point it towards a person or an animal, you half hold the button. Just make sure you have the one that you want to shoot selected, and you can see it starts tracking. I'm gonna throw some video up here of me tracking my dog, but you can see that it tracks him pretty well. I did notice that when using this feature, I guess with my dog, since he is a very dark colored dog and has dark eyes, there's not as much contrast there, so it had a little trouble finding his eye. But in less contrast contrasty situations, it didn't have a problem. I assume if your dog is light colored or tan, it would probably track a lot easier and probably from more of a distance. Mine would only work when I got a little closer to him or I filled the frame. I assume that's just my case with my dog. I would have to test with an animal that has a lighter coat to let you know if it actually tracked. And then Sony does say in the release notes that it depends on the environment, the type of animal, and the animal movement, whether or not it will track the eye. So it's not perfect. I assume they will improve on it in the future, but I mean, it's a start and it gives us something to work with for now. I mean, those are the main features. I haven't yet tried to set up my menu button here, but if you hold menu and you hit function, it'll actually skip from tab to tab, so no longer do you have to go to the top and hit the tabs. So that is a welcomed addition as well. So one of the other things people aren't talking about is the ability to assign the menu as a custom key. I don't really see the benefit in that. I guess it prevents you from having to do the whole two-hand when you want to do the menu. I know usually you're holding the camera and you want to do menu, but I guess if you can set it to a custom button, you can one hand get to the menu. I mean, that's cool, but I don't see the benefit personally for that. If they really wanted to, they could probably fit the menu key over here somewhere in between the AF on AEO button. But yeah, it's not a crazy good feature to me. Now, there are some caveats here that I did notice. One thing is with the IAF, before if you had it in any other mode like center or point mode, it would actually go and find the face and eye and take priority. It'll still find it sometimes, but sometimes it'll switch back and forth. So if you want to track the eye or face when using like a point focus and you know that's not always going to be in the frame, you have to still use a button to engage it. If you use a button to engage it, and let's say you have center autofocus point set and your face is on this side of the area, it'll grab the face and the eye over that point. But if you're using the active by holding the actual shutter button, it will go back and forth between that center point and the eye sometimes, so it's not as consistent. Just make sure that if you don't want any confusion between your points, use a button to engage it. Otherwise, it works fine in active. Just make sure that you keep it in wide or zone for the best results. That's just one of the caveats. The other thing is the intervalometer. With using the silent mode, you're not going to run up your shutter count. I don't really care about shutter count, but for those who do care, that's it. It doesn't run it up for you, so that's a good addition. Now, one thing that I did do is I tested on my A7 III. I tested with the 28mm f2 that's shooting me now. I also tested with the 50mm 1.8. So some of these shots that you're seeing of my dog are with these lenses as well as the MC11. So I have this lens here. It's an 8200 Tokina Canon. I was going to do a video on this. This is a heavy lens, but I have the MC11 on this, and I wanted to make sure that the MC11 was going to support that autofocus feature because I know that does support IAF before the update. The MC11 by far is the best adapter. If you're going to adapt, use the MC11. Do not buy Metabones or any of that other crap like Calmlight. MC11 best experience hands down. As far as photos, your photo experience is probably going to be the same between a Metabones and an MC11. The MC11 though has more compatibility with third-party lenses like Sigma and stuff like that, or older lenses sometimes will work on this that won't work on the Metabones. The one thing that I love about the MC11 though is if you get a Canon Sigma lens, one of the newer ones, it will autofocus in video. I had the 18-35 on the A6500 with the MC11. Autofocus in video was flawless. The only thing is it was a little loud. Other than that, I mean, I usually don't use the audio for my videos anyways, other than reference. MC11, that's gonna be another video, but if you were wondering, get the MC11, don't get the other stuff. Those are the updates to the A7 III, A7R3. So to sum it up, the features are the active autofocus with the half shutter press, the animal IAF, the ability to do time lapse in camera, the ability to tab over with the menu and function button in your menu, and you can also assign the menu as a custom button. I think I forgot anything, but there are other stability things that they fixed as well. I'm really excited about this update. I can't wait to put this camera to the test. I do have a bunch of other videos, you know, that are coming out that I shot weeks ago. I've just been traveling lately and work has been killing me, so I'm gonna try to get those out for you immediately. I know the last video that I shot was the April Fool's video on the A7S III. Again, I'm sorry, I should have just said at the end of the video, hey, this is April Fool's, whatever. But I wanted to make it seem realistic, and I think that happened. I mean, some people got mad. I appreciate those who had a sense of humor. All right, guys, hopefully this video was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. Again, I'll leave a link in the description for the firmware, as well as a link to my video, which shows you how to update your Sony camera. And sometimes you may run into some issues, so feel free to ask me. I may know the solution because I've run into issues myself. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe for more content just like this. Hit the notification bell if you're into that. That's a wrap.